we kind of spun our tires and we almost got stuck in there. And we're panicking. And I'm yelling out the window to my friend because he was parked in front of me. I mean, you were going out the trail like in front of me. I said, yo, get out of the way. So I backed up and I went on the grass. I went around them. And as soon as I did that, he started moving and we just got out of there. And honestly, we never went back there again.
Hi there, you're listening to the Bigfoot Society podcast, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Every week I talk to individuals who have experienced Sasquatch in some way or another, so you won't want to miss an episode. Make sure you're subscribed on the platform that you're listening to, and share this episode with a friend. It does not cost a thing, and it helps the show continue to grow. Great news, I did get back from my Bigfoot expedition with Tate Hieronymus and friends without an issue. You'll hear more about that much later. But I want to do a special thank you to some more people that helped support that expedition. Special thank you to Scott D for buying 2 coffees. He says, have fun going squatching. Appreciate that, buddy. And also a special thank you to someone for buying 5 coffees. Good luck, and I hope you come back with some great stories. I will. I mean, I did. You're just not going to hear them yet because my buddy Tate is going to come out with another Iowa episode. So I'm going to wait until then. Make sure you're subscribed to Tate's channel. It's in the show notes. If you'd like to hear Bigfoot Society episodes early and ad-free, you can do so by becoming a Patreon supporter or a YouTube channel member. Links to those are in the show notes. And Bigfoot Society, I've taken far too much of your time so far, so let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to a gentleman tonight. His name is Swampdogg, and he approached me letting me know that he's got some really interesting things to share that have happened over the years. And so I'm just going to say, how's it going, Swampdogg?
Everything's going okay, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Having a great Labor Day weekend and just kind of starting to relax, but I am excited to finally talk to you. I know we've been going back and forth for a few days, and it's exciting to get this to work out finally. So, where are things? How are things going where you're at, Swampdogg?
The weather's nice. I live in Barrens, New Jersey. I live in southern New Jersey area. I'm about, a half hour, 40 minutes away from the Delaware Memorial Bridge, and a half hour away from the Philadelphia Bridge. The Walt Whitman. So I'm out. I'm outside of outside of the center city. My area is more of like farmland, and we have woods. I'm only I say about 20 minutes away from Wharton State Forest, out there by Hamilton Township and all that. And I got forest and farmland all the way around me. So, but it's nice out here. I am moving to Eastern Tennessee in a couple months, so I'll be leaving here soon. So that's the deal with this area here.
And I'm just curious, real quick, how close are you to the Pine Barrens?
Wharton State Forest is the Pine Barrens.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'm in the Jeeps and I'm in the 4x4ing, and that's where we go. There's a lot of trails out there that we go. We do a lot of overland camping. I bow hunt out there. I fish out there. It's a lot of acres. A lot of acres. I forget how much it is, but it's over 1,000 acres out there. I think it's like, 8,000 acres they were saying, I believe. I don't know, something like that. But there's other woods too, you know what I mean? There's a place called, it's in Winslow, New Jersey. It's called Winslow State Forest. If you Google it, you'll see it. That's a big place out there too. We hang out in the woods out there too. So, but yeah, but we have woods all the way around me. You know what I mean? But the Pine Barrens, I know that real good.
Oh, I'm extremely interested to hear what you have to share. I know a little bit about the Pine Barrens. I read some books about it growing up, and there's some weird stuff that happens in those
Yeah,
forests.
it's a lot of weird stuff going on in Pine Barrens. I mean, it's like I said, I've been going through there. I'm 52, and I've been going through there since I was like, I don't know, 17, 18 years old. So, that'll tell you. So, there's a lot of weird stuff goes on in there. It's a real nice place, during the day, but when the sun goes down, it's a real spooky area. And it doesn't matter where you go, it is spooky. I mean, I'm not the only one that says it. A lot of my friends say it too, So when we build a campfire, we kind of build a big one, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, but there's a lot of stories coming out there, you know what I mean? I mean, Jimmy, they say that, they got, the people have seen the Sasquatch out there. And they talk about the Jersey Devil, but I really don't believe in the Jersey Devil. But I heard a lot of stories, and I heard a lot of people talking about their encounters with that. But I don't know. As far as Bigfoot goes, I can see it in that area. Because if I wanted to, and let's say I wanted to get away from everybody and hide, that'd be one place I can hide and nobody will ever find me. So that's how thick it is out there. So, and then in Jersey, a lot of people say, oh, there's no rattlesnakes in Jersey. There's rattlesnakes and there's plenty of them out there. Because like I said, I walk through there. I do my 4x4 out there. I look for different places to hunt. For the fall bow hunting and all that, and you can get lost back there. You know what I mean?
I can see how you probably got the name Swampdogg.
Yes,
yeah.
I was always in the swamp. I was always in the swamp with my 4x4s. You know what I mean? And everybody just called me Swampdogg. So that's how I got that.
I'm loving it. Well, what kind of things have you run into? Because I'm guessing if you're going out there, Swampdogg, you're running into some stuff.
Yeah. Out there, I never had I never seen anything, but I heard things like as far as like branch snapping or some weird noises like howls and stuff. I did hear that out there, but I never seen nothing out there. But I did hear stuff like that, and I never heard nothing like wood knocks or nothing like that. Just like howls and. But they got coyotes out there and stuff, but it wasn't no coyote. You know what I mean? It was like the sounds that I used to hear out there. You had to have some real big lungs. You know what I mean? And it wasn't no coyote. So that kind of raised the hair on my neck and my arms a little bit, but you'll only hear it for a few minutes, or you might hear it for 10 minutes, and then you don't hear nothing no more. But I always stay close to the truck. You know what I mean? And I always make sure the keys were in the ignition because I didn't want to, if I ever encounter something out that way, I didn't want to be looking for my keys. I always had the keys in ignition. So, yeah, that area out there, it's, there's a lot of people talking. I remember I only started bow hunting, let me see how long ago it was. I don't know, maybe like 10, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago. And I never hunted when I was a kid or nothing. I got into it because when I married my wife, her family, they all bow hunted, and they all used doing shotguns for hunting and all that stuff. And I always wanted to do it, but I never did. But then when I married my wife, I got into it because my brother-in-law and my father-in-law and everybody. And then I got into it about 15 years ago. You know what I mean? So I used to hunt out there, and I have a friend of mine. I don't want to mention his store because he don't even know that I'm talking to you right now. But anyway, um, he owns a gun shop, and it's a gun shop slash hunting shop. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they do work on guns. They sell guns and bows and everything, and all kind of hunting equipment. And I mean, it's a real nice little place. But when I first got into hunting, and I got my first bow, Jimmy, the old timers that Jimmy used to sit out front of the store, like on the porch and tell stories and stuff. I used to say that, I want to stalk a deer. I mean, I don't want to be up in a tree stand, or I don't want to be like behind a blind. I want to actually hike, and I want to be able to stalk a deer and all that stuff. And I said, and then camp out there. You know what I mean? Like maybe a couple of days or a week. You know what I mean? Just bow hunt. You know what I mean? And they used to tell me like these guys were like in the 70s and 80s, and they used to tell me when I go out there, you know what I mean, to be careful because there's things out there. And I'm like, oh, you're talking about like the Jersey Devil? He said, no, there's just things out there, and you have to be careful, and you got to know your surroundings. You know what I mean? So they're trying to give me like one of them talks, like and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, so and I knew what they were talking about. Like I said, because I've been going in there since I was 18 years old. You know what I mean? And I kind of knew what they were saying, but I never, really got into it, like, with them. Because at that time, I really didn't want to talk about what I hear things or, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? I wasn't, I didn't want people to think I was crazy, but they were trying to tell me too. But I guess they felt the same way. They didn't want to get into it. All they said was just be careful out there because there's things out there,
Sure. But you didn't press the issue to find out exactly what they were saying because you wanted to be cool,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't want, at the time I was like, I didn't want people to think I was crazy or nuts, or if I mentioned it, that I seen stuff, or if I heard stuff, I don't want people to think I was crazy, because around here, and you know what, I noticed that too. It don't matter where you go, like in this country, if you try to bring something up to a hunter, they will always deny it, and they'll always call you crazy. A lot of times, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like they don't want to hear about it, or do you mean they don't want to talk about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to get that a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, or we're talking around a campfire. You know what I mean? And let's say somebody had mentioned something Bigfoot. Nobody wants to talk about it. Oh, that's a myth. And then they'll change the subject. So I noticed that with hunters. So
absolutely, it's hard to get hunters to talk, and usually they are not with their buddies when they finally talk because they want to keep up that appearance and not be looked at as crazy or something. But
yeah. Well, I'm the same way. You know what I mean? It's like I told you, I don't want to talk about it or say anything about it. You know what I mean? Because I don't want people to think I was crazy. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I can understand it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. Jersey's a small state, and we're connected to Pennsylvania, New York, upstate New York. We're connected to Delaware. I got Delaware, I got Pennsylvania, and then I got like New York. So we're connected. You know what I mean, to those 3 states. You know what I'm saying? And it's like we had signs. I mean, about like 20 years ago. You know what I mean? They had signs. Different people had seen the cougars out here. And it's kind of weird because, I never seen one, but I heard people talk about it. They'll be like in their deer stand and like, 50 yards away. You know what I mean? They'll see like a cat walk by, you know what I mean? And, I have never seen one, but I heard people talk about it. So, it's just, there's a lot here in Jersey that people will say, oh, that's New Jersey. Everybody thinks it's like New York City, but it's not, because down here where I live, it's like I say, it's all woods and farms. You know what I mean? And it's, there's a lot goes on down here, that, people doesn't like know about. So.
Sounds like a lot of hidden stuff. Has
Yeah.
there ever been a time when you were out in the woods and stuff started happening and you're like, I don't know if I really want to be around here right now?
There have been times where I'll be walking through a trail, or I'll be walking through a game trail, and my wife is with me, and we're just going for like a nature walk, and I'll have a bad, give me like a feeling, give me bad feelings, and it's just, I know there's something there. I look around, I don't see nothing, I don't hear nothing, but I feel something. You know what I mean? And I just like, let's just go back to the truck, And she'd be like, well, what happened? I said, let's just go back to the truck. It just don't feel right. So, but, that happens sometimes to me. So, but yeah, and the reason why I feel that sometimes, and, I don't know, it's because of my sightings. And I know they're here, but I don't know if I get like spooked because my sightings in the past. So you know what I mean. So and it's kind of weird. You know what I mean. It's just I just feel things. You know what I mean. I just feel it, and it feels like somebody's watching you, or it seems like somebody's watching every move you make, and it's like I just like, let's go back to the truck.
Oh, I get it. It's like you're opened up to realizing what's really going on around you. It sounded like you've had a few sightings in the past, and those must have affected you in some way. I'm curious. What kind of things did you experience?
Okay. Back in 1989, I was a senior in high school. It was in October, and I had a girlfriend, and I was with my friend of mine, my best friend at the time, and he was with his girlfriend. So at the time, I had a Pontiac. What was that? Those Fiero. You remember the Pontiac Fieros? Those little cars kind of look like Corvettes, 2-seaters.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I had one of them, and he had a Camaro. So up the road from me, matter of fact, it's about a mile. It's about a mile away from where I'm at right now talking to you. It was an old abandoned airport that they used to have the crop planes You know what I mean? Those little planes that spray the farms and stuff. You know what I mean? The fields. And they had a garage over there where they used to work on these crop planes. And I mean, they used to have like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 of them over there parked. But they had a little dirt trail on the other side of the airport. And this was almost around the corner from the industrial park. But you mean they had a couple warehouses back there. And I don't know whether you know how the ground is over here, but when you go out in the woods, it's like a they call it like sugar sand. And we should have known better because we don't. At the time, we didn't have no 4x4s, no trucks or nothing. And if you remember the Fiero, it was only maybe 2 or 3 inches off the ground. You know what I mean? Just as it sat. And I guess the Camaro was the same way, but we were dumb and we took the girls out there to the airport. You know what I mean? And we were doing what teenagers do, listening to music, Jimmy making out and stuff and all that stuff, And so we went down this trail, almost got stuck going in, but we made it to the grass spot and we were all right. So then we parked and we were hanging out and all that stuff and talking and all that stuff. And we were there, I'll say about 20 minutes. No more than a half hour. And we were hanging outside the cars. My girlfriend at the time, she was leaning on my door and we were like hugging and kissing, all that stuff. And my friend of mine, he was parked like catty corner and he was doing the same thing. And I think we were listening to Motley Crue or something, back in the day, back in the day. But anyway, it was a full moon that day. And I remember this like it was like yesterday. Something caught my eye and I looked up and at the airport, they had like a little hill that went up. I don't know, maybe like 6 feet high. You know what I'm saying? Like, you mean? And I looked and I see something moving. And I'm like, oh, what is I'm saying to myself, what is that? You know what I mean? And you mean I was like, just like dumbfounded. And you mean at first I thought it was a person. And it was standing there and I could see it like, because the moon was bright. It was about, I don't know, maybe, 50 to 80 yards away from me. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm looking at it, and then I started walking towards the left, and then was walking towards the right, like going back and forth, back and forth. And I'm thinking to myself, what's this guy doing? Is this guy on drugs, or, you know what I mean? Is he a drunk, or what is he? I mean, because if it was like a game warden or something, I'm pretty sure they would be coming straight to us, But this thing was walking right to the left, right to the left. And it did it like 4 or 5 times. And then I said to my friend, I said, yo, I said, what is that? That's a guy over there walking back and forth. And he comes walking towards me. And he said, I don't know what. He said, whatever it is, it looks like a big dude. You know what I mean? This is how he's talking. And I said, yeah, he's big because I'm 6'2". And I think I'm big. When I saw that thing, I said, that's big. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and we kept looking at it, and I says, yo, I don't feel right. Let's get out of here. So when we were getting ready to open the doors to get in the vehicles, to our right, about 40 yards away to our right. Now, I'm looking straight at this thing, and towards my right, I heard a tree branch break. And when we heard that, everybody jumped in the cars, and I jumped in the cars, and we just started the cars up, and we took off. And what happened was, remember the sugar sand that, I was telling you about?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we kind of spun our tires, and we almost got stuck in there. And we're panicking, and I'm yelling out the window to my friend because he was parked in front of me. I mean, you were going out the trail like in front of me. I said, yo, get out of the way. So I backed up, and I went on the grass. I went around them. And as soon as I did that, he started moving, and we just got out of there. And honestly, we never went back there again. So, like I was telling you, one time I was talking to Kerry Arnold, and he was telling me what that sounded like. That guy was trying to get her attention, but there was one on the right, about 40 yards away, that was coming towards us. And I don't know whether they wanted to jump us or what, or, you know what I mean? But this guy wanted our attention. So, Carrie was telling me that most likely it was trying to get our attention, knowing that they had another one of these creatures on the right of us that was coming towards us. You know what I'm saying? But then when we heard the tree branch that didn't break, and it snapped, like it wasn't a little, twig or something. It was a big, like, I don't know, it sounded like a shotgun. That's how loud it was. You know what I mean? This thing went crash. Boom. And I'm like, that's when we jumped in our car and we took off, and we never went back there again. And, we, we just, so then what happened was we dropped the girls off at the house and we met up at a diner. And I was like, yo, dude, what was that? And he said, I don't know. But he said, whatever that thing was big. Right? Because I'm 6'2", like I said. And my friend, he's about 6'1". I don't know, maybe he's 6'2" too. But he says that thing was big. And I said, yeah, that thing was huge. But the branch that snapped, that sounded like a gunshot. Just like I was telling you, it sounded like a rifle or something, it just went boom, and I'm like, what the heck? And we, like I said, we jumped in our cars and we took off. Like, we looked like wild rabbits running around. That's, you know what I'm saying? It sounds funny now to me, but like at the time it wasn't funny because, we were trying to get in our cars fast. You know what I mean? It's like, but that was my first encounter, and I had never said nothing to nobody. My friend of mine, me and him, we never talked about it ever again. And we just never went back there. You know what I'm saying? But the funny part is about this area here where I got my first sighting. When I met my wife that I'm married to now, her father used to live in Byron, and he moved to Gloucester City, New Jersey. But when he was a kid, he was a teenager, he lived in Byron. So I I never told my wife the story until after my father-in-law told me his story. And we were sitting around the table having coffee and bagels, and my wife told my father-in-law, well, we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, but you know what I mean? But I mean, I went over to meet the parents, So he's like, well, she's like, Dad, tell me about the thing you saw when you were a teenager out there. And like, I'm like, what are you talking about? So you mean, I forgot all about my first encounter. So he was saying, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. And, and so my wife was like, go ahead, Dad, tell him what the story. So he said when he was 14 years old, now he was 67 at the time, I believe, when he was telling me this story. But he said when he was 14 years old, him and his friends used to camp at that airport where I'm telling you about. But like at that time when he was a kid, it wasn't an airport. It was just all 50-olds and goes all around. So he was telling me that they were pitching their tent, and it's like 8, 9 o'clock at night. They made a little campfire because they were going to do, that they were cooking hamburgers or something, or hot dogs. And my father-in-law at the time, he looked up on the same exact hill that I was telling you about where I got my first encounter. And he saw this thing walking and watching them, walking and watching them. And when he was telling me the story, every hair on my body just went up. And I was like, I don't know, like it scared the hell out of me because I knew what he was talking about because they saw what I saw, but he was 14 years old at the time. And when he was telling me this, he was 67. So, so then I told him what had happened to me and what I seen and what my friends seen. And he was like, yeah, there's stuff out there. And, but he said it walked away from them, but it hung around for about, 3 or 4 minutes, he said, and it walked away. But he said it was walking along this hill, like on top of the hill, and it was watching them. And then it walked away. And he said he never saw it again, ever. And then after that, a couple of weeks later, I guess they had moved to Gloucester City, him and his mom and dad, or whoever. So, but yeah, that's 2 encounters in the same exact area.
That's incredible. So he has
years apart.
He has his encounter in the late 30s. You have yours in the late 80s.
Yep.
I'm guessing if my math is correct, his would have been in the late 30s, I think, because you said there was about 50 years.
Right.
That's wild.
Yep.
And so
that blew my mind. I was shocked. I went to meet them, and I never thought that I would ever hear this story, and it all came back to me. So, you know what I mean? It was like, boom. I said, oh, man. So, and that's when, like, after I told him my encounter, and he just looked at me and said, yeah, there's things out there. Yeah, I was like, yeah. I said, I guess so. And then we didn't talk about it no more. We talked about other things.
I totally get it. So a few questions for you about that, because that is just a fascinating story. The mental picture of like you guys hanging out in the late 80s at this abandoned airport, listening to the Motley Crue. There's probably like Kickstart My Heart or something, and then all of a sudden you're just burning rubber or whatever, trying to get away from these Bigfoot, which they were trying to sneak up on you. I'm pretty sure on the one side of the car, and it was almost real bad for you guys.
Yeah, if we would have stayed there, it would have been real bad. I believe that. Because I'm going to tell you something. This thing that was on the hill was going right to the left, right to the left. And he wanted us to keep our eye on him. And I'm telling you, about 40 yards away to our right, I, I heard that branch snap. And it was like a big snap. You know what I mean? So I know it was a big branch. And when that happened, we hauled ass. We hit, you know what I mean? It's like we were trying to get out of there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah. It's like there's something on the hill, and there was definitely something on the hill. Did you get a good look at the creature? Do you remember any details, or was it kind of too far away to see the details?
The one on the right, that was 40 yards away, you know what I mean, about 40 yards away, we never seen that. All we did was hear that one. Mm-hmm. The one on the hill, that thing was big. It's like I'm telling you, I'm 6'2". He was about 6'1", 6'2". And up on the hill, he was tall. I'm guessing he was between 7.5 to 8 feet tall. That's what I'm guessing.
Gotcha.
But he was like 50 to 80 yards away. And he was big and he was wide. See, because when we were first looking at him, we were thinking, like, this guy was wide, not just tall, but his shoulders. Like, we could see the silhouette, you know what I'm saying? But he was wide at the top. And we know he was tall. I'm guessing, because to me, I'm always trying to picture that in my mind. And I know he was about 7.5 to 8 feet tall. That's how I know. And he was big. And like, you know, I keep thinking about it, and like in the past, and like even up to a year after that happened, I was always thinking about it. And I'm saying to myself, that thing was big. That thing was huge. If me and my friend, if we had to defend ourselves against this one big thing, it would have never happened. It would have never happened. We would have been toast. I know that for a fact. This thing would have plowed into us. We would probably have a better chance fighting a bull than fighting this thing. That's how big this thing was. And this is in South Jersey. This is not Washington State. This is not in Northern California or Texas. This is in New Jersey, South Jersey area.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's all, you know, it like amazes me because, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, you mean, like I told you earlier, and everybody's always talking about Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, California, Washington, but nobody ever said nothing about Jersey. You know what I mean? I hear New England, I hear Rhode Island, I hear stories about Connecticut, but nobody ever said nothing about New Jersey. And it's like, I don't know if I seen it. I know a whole lot of other people had to seen it. You know what I'm saying? So then I started, Googling my area, Bigfoot sightings in New Jersey or in South Jersey. And you mean they have been, but like encounters in this area back in the 60s and the 50s, you know what I mean? If you Google it, you'll see it, you know what I mean? But like all I do is Google Bigfoot sightings in Barrens, New Jersey, or doing Bigfoot sightings in South Jersey. And they had a few sightings, you know what I mean? There was a farmer down here that has seen it one day. I think, I don't know, sometime in the 60s. And at the same day, it was a teenager, guy and girl, they seen it down at the Sandwash. So, you know, they're here, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, and it's going to get more crazier when I tell you. Now, I graduated in 1990, and I started driving a truck. My father was a truck driver. He passed away a year ago. And he was a truck driver, and I became a truck driver right out of high school. And I started driving the truck and all that stuff. So 2 years after my first sighting, I was driving for my father, and I used to go to the same place, like down the street, maybe, I don't know, half a mile away from our first sighting. There was a warehouse that they used to ship like aluminum products, like aluminum foil, or aluminum blocks to make stuff out of aluminum, And I used to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, at least 3 times a week. So one day, in nonchalant, I jumped in the truck. It's 8 o'clock at night. I had to be in Charlotte for 6 in the morning. So I get to the warehouse, and it's like I'm saying, it's about a half a mile away from my first sighting. I get to the warehouse, and nobody's there. It's all dark. There's only one light post. It's kind of back in the woods. Like I said, this is all woods back here. And I found my trailer that I had to hook up to. Hooked up to the trailer. I jumped out the cab. I hooked up my airlines, and I went to go crank the landing gear up. As soon as I touched the landing gear, I heard these screams and howling and screams, and I froze. And I just froze. I couldn't move. I could not move. These screams were so loud, it just went right through you. And I couldn't move. And I didn't want to turn my head to the right, and I didn't want to turn my head to the left. I just kept straight looking right to the trailer. The wall right there, the trailer walls. I was just looking at the trailer walls, and I couldn't move. So finally, it was getting louder and louder and louder. And what I did was I left the landing gear there. I pulled the pin on the tractor, unhooked the lines. Didn't even bother to hook them back up to the cab, Like we had hooks where, we used to hook up the airlines and electrical cord. I jumped in the truck and I took off, and I didn't go back. I parked the truck in front of the house, and I told my father, I'm not going back there. He said, why? What happened? I said, I'm not going back there. I don't want to talk about it. I'll pick the load up in the morning when the sun's up. And that's what I did. So I went back like 8 o'clock in the morning. And, they had a rescheduled appointment. And I hooked up to the load, and I went to Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't talk to nobody for 2 or 3 days. So, and I didn't want to be bothered by anybody. I just wanted to deliver this load, and I wanted to sit in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I didn't want to move. Because it scared the hell out of me. That scared me. That scared me 10 times more than that first encounter. And then I told the broker, I said, listen, I'm not going back in there at night no more. If you guys can't have the load ready by 5 p.m., I'm not picking it up. I'll pick it up the next day. So they had made arrangements, because I was the only one going to Charlotte, North Carolina, because nobody wanted to go there. So since nobody wanted to go there, they had to make sure that load was loaded by 5 p.m. because I wasn't going in there at night anymore. And I did that for about a year. And but that was about half a mile away from our first sighting.
I was just about to ask that. I was just about to ask that, man.
Yep. That scared the hell out of me. As a matter of fact, I'm right now telling you this, I'm getting, my hairs on my arms are standing up. That bothered the hell out of me. And you know what? It's just like, and it kind of sounded like the Ohio sound. but 10 times louder, or like 10 times. I don't know how to explain it, but like, louder. Like, you know what I mean? When this thing screamed, it was like this thing had a pair of lungs on it. I mean, and it went right through. I didn't know where it was. I heard it. It was loud. It was getting louder and louder. So that means it was coming. And, and like I said, I froze. I couldn't move. I actually could not move my body. It was like something, like it felt like something was holding me there. And then like I snapped out of it and hauled ass. You know what I mean? And like I said, I made arrangements. I never went back there at nighttime. If the trailer wasn't loaded by 5 o'clock, that load was leaving the next morning. I wasn't going to go back there at nighttime. And everybody always kept on asking me why. And what am I going to tell them? That I heard this scream and it scared the hell out of me, and I'm not going back in there at night. You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, I was a young guy. I mean, what was the first thing they're going to say? Oh, this guy was smoking dope. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, and I just, I never went back there at night. I didn't care. You know what I mean? I was at the point where if my dad wanted to fire me and hire somebody else to drive the truck, that was fine with me. Have at it. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. I didn't care. I wasn't going back there at night. So, and it's just like, the only one that I told about that story was to my wife. You know what I mean? So, she was the only one I knew about that. But see, I had met my wife, I don't know, like 8, 9 years later after that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's what I mean when I was telling you about my father-in-law, when he was telling me about his encounter. And I was just like, that just came right back at me. You know what I mean? I was like, man, this is the same place, the same spot, the same hill, same everything. And, I don't know whether it was the same creature. I don't know how long they live. You know what I mean? I don't know how long they hang out in the same area. I don't know, but basically the same thing happened to me, happened to him. And then like 2 years later, after my first encounter, this thing happened with the screaming and the howling. And I want to tell you something. It sounded like a dinosaur was coming. It wasn't like a coyote or anything like that. It sounded like a dinosaur coming. And it scared the hell out of me. It scared it. As I can tell you right now, when I'm telling you this, all my hairs are standing up on my arms. So, that was no joke. I was there by myself. And the only thing I had in my pocket was a little buck knives. You know what I mean? That's all I had, And this thing sounded like a dinosaur coming. And it was coming. And I knew it was coming. But I never, and then, it's just, this area here. And then, like, if you say something, it's like people look at you like you're crazy. That's why I really never said anything to anybody. All my friends at the hunt shop, I never said, you know what I mean? Like, I'll start something little and then, I just let it go. You know what I mean? But, it's not just I just want to say, it's not just in the Pacific Northwest. It's here in Jersey too,
Oh, absolutely. Swampdogg, can you repeat the name of the town that both of these things happened in?
All right. I live in Vineland, Vineland, New Jersey.
Okay. Vineland, New Jersey. I feel like
it's in the middle of South Jersey. Yeah.
I feel like there's a listener out there who's listening to this and is like, that sounds like Vineland. And then they're going to be like, oh, it is Vineland. And then they're going to say like, I've had a similar situation happen in that area. I have a feeling that we're going to hit something with this one. It just feels like it. So let me know.
Yeah.
Email is bigfootsociety@gmail.com, or you can always drop it in the YouTube comments, but the best way is to email me directly. But man, Swampdogg, these are nuts, man.
Yeah. Well, it just gets better. I mean,
Oh,
you know,
man.
About 7 years ago, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, I was running back and forth like to Boston, Massachusetts. And then when I used to get unloaded in Boston, Massachusetts, I used to go up in the state of Maine, and I used to pick up water at the Poland Spring, but warehouse. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys got that in Iowa, but we have Poland Spring water. It's like bottled water, and so anyway, I used to be my backhaul, and it was kind of funny because like me and my wife used to ride in the truck with me ever since we met, and we've been together like I don't know, 23, 24 years, and she always rode in the truck with me. And we used to run all 48 states, but like at that time I was only running Jersey to Boston to Maine, and then Maine back to Jersey. And once in a while we used to talk about this stuff with Bigfoot and all this stuff, and I used to listen to your shows and stuff as I'm going up the road. And then she was like, "Oh, we've always been going through the woods. We go to Maine, we go Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and we never seen nothing." And I used to tell my wife, I says, "How many times we go to Maine?" Then she goes, "We go to Maine, like 2 or 3 times a week." I says, "Have you ever seen a moose?" "No." So there's your sign. If you never seen a moose, how you and there's moose in Maine, and there's moose in New Hampshire, but you never seen it. It's the same thing with Bigfoot. You may know they're there, but you may never see it. You know what I'm trying to say? I mean,
Makes sense.
like, yeah. I mean, and all the years I drove a truck in the state of Maine, I never seen a moose. Never. I seen white-tailed deer. I seen black bear. I never seen a moose. Never. And we used to go all the way up to the potato part of Maine. I was up in northern Maine by the Canada line, and never seen a moose. Never. And then still to today, I haven't seen a moose in person. You know what I mean? So how there's no Bigfoots there? You never seen it, but it's like, how do you know? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because just because you don't see it, it don't mean they're there, just like moose. You know what I mean? They're there, but you don't see it, So, that's what I mean. I try to explain to my wife, But so what happened was I went up to Maine and I picked up a load of water down in Poland, Maine. And we're headed back to Jersey. And I got lucky that day because I had to deliver in Vineland, New Jersey to a grocery store called ShopRite. And it's a big, I don't know, grocery stores, you know what I mean? And so I had a 6 a.m. appointment. Well, I'm coming down the Jersey Turnpike. I get off exit 7 in Bordentown. And I used to get off exit 7. I go to Wawa, get my coffee, my hoagie, or, like a store called Wawa. It's a real popular store around my area. And I go on down the road after we ate, drank our coffee, and I was beat tired. This is like my 3rd round. And back in them days, we didn't have electronic logbooks, so I'm running the road with 3 logbooks because, you know what I mean, I'm going back and forth, back and forth. And, well, anyway, I jump on 295 in Fordingtown. It's the highway I-295. About a mile away from the truck stop and Wawa and all that, there used to be a rest area that's on the right-hand side, on the southbound side. So I pulled in there, and I took, I don't know, maybe like an hour nap. Like, because I had time. I was only 60 miles away from my hometown. So you mean about an hour ride. I was there. So I wake up an hour and an hour. I wake my wife up. I said, come on, we got to go. I jump in the driver's seat. I turn my lights on. I turn my interior lights on, and I'm doing my logbook real quick. And my wife is still in the bunk, and she's putting her shoes on. And I just happened to look up, and on the right side of the rest area, I saw something running very, 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 very fast. It was on my right. It was running towards my left, and I thought it was going to go across the highway. And what I saw was about 8 to 9 feet tall. It was only 30 yards away from the front of my truck. When I popped my head up, because I was doing my logbook, I had my book on my lap. I'm drawing the lines on the logbook and doing my numbers and all that. And I looked up, and I seen this thing running. And then, like I said, it was very, very tall, 8, 9 feet tall. But the way it was running, it was so fast. But you know, when you jog or you're running, that your head bops up and down. You know what I mean? When you run, if you see somebody running, the head goes up and down. You know what I mean? As they're running.
Mm-hmm.
This thing wasn't doing that. This thing looked like it was on a skateboard going across the parking lot, doing like 60 mile an hour because it was smooth. He was like, it was on ice skates, smooth going across the parking lot. My headlights hit it. And it, like I said, it was like 30, I'd say about 30, 35 yards away from my truck. And I mean, I was driving a Peterbilt at the time. It was a 379 Pete. And I was kind of, you know, right there. And I seen this thing. And I said to my wife, yo, you see this? I told you they're here. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, Bigfoot just ran across the truck. She said, you're crazy. And she said, you're tired. I said, no, I actually said. And then when it ran across the parking lot and it passed my truck, like it was going towards the highway, it kind of jumped, but it turned towards me in the air and it landed in the ditch. And I just stood there and I'm arguing with my wife. I said, you had to see that. And you mean I'm arguing with her. I said, if you wasn't so damn slow putting your shoes on, you would have been in the front seat and you would have seen it. And she's like, how do you see nothing? I said, well, guess what? I seen it again. And so on do you know the spotlights that the police cars have?
Absolutely.
Okay, I had one on my truck, so I turned it on. I turned it towards the highway, like down to this ditch. I put the truck in first gear, and I let it roll real slow. Never seen nothing. So I don't know whether it ran across the highway on the northbound side, or it was behind trees and I couldn't see it. But I shined my spotlight and never seen nothing. But I did see it running across the parking lot. And I'm telling you, it was like it was on the ice skates. The head wasn't bobbing. It was just like smooth. It was like, I can't explain it, but it was like on a skateboard going across. It wasn't going up and down. You know what I mean? Like when people run, the head goes up and down, and you see the shoulders going up and down. This thing wasn't done. This thing was smooth. It was like on a skateboard, or it looked like it was on ice skates, but it was coming across the parking lot quick, and it was running fast. And I never seen nobody ever run that damn fast. You know what I mean? And but the way when it jumped into the ditch, it kind of turned towards me, and it landed and kept going. And that's when I mean, I freaked out. I was like, holy ass. I was like, I'm telling my wife, did you see that? Did you see that? She said, no, I didn't see nothing. And she's like, it probably was a bear. I said, there's no way in hell this thing was a bear. I know what bears look like.
It's
You know
not
what I
a
mean?
bear move.
This wasn't a bear.
Yeah.
A bear do not move like that. I don't care if a million people tell me that was a bear. I will deny it. That was not a bear. I know that for a fact. It wasn't a bear. I know that. I know what bears look like. I'm not stupid. You know what I mean? So when I left, I was like up. You know what I mean? I couldn't sleep. When I got to Byron, unloaded my trailer, I went back to the yard. I parked the truck and trailer, and I went home. I usually crash, you know what I mean, because I'm tired. You know what I mean? Because I just drove 600-700 miles in like 24-hour period, and you know what I mean. I was tired, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. All I did was smoke cigarettes and drink coffee, and I was thinking about this, going through my mind over and over and over and over. And I'm telling my wife kept saying it was a bear. No, it wasn't a bear. A bear don't run like that. You know what I mean? But that was a count, and that was at that time. That was the third encounter. That was the closest one that I had eyesight. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? That I saw with my eyes, and and that was, like I said, 35 yards. So, that was 60 miles away from my hometown, Violin, north of me.
Wow.
And if you talk about Wharton State Forest, you mean the Pine Barrens?
Uh-huh.
It's only from where I go, the Wharton State Forest, to there is probably, I don't know, 30 miles away. You know what I mean? If you went up 206, it'd be like 30 miles away to Bordentown. You want me to that rest area? So, about 25, 30 miles away. So now I'm thinking, okay, Violin to Bordentown, and then all the stories I heard of Warren State Forest. That's like a little triangle, like a 60-mile triangle. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking this area here, and you know what I mean? And it's not like, I was tired. Yes, I was tired. I admit I was tired. Like I said, you know what I mean? I used to run hard as a truck driver. You know what I mean? I was the guy who overnighted Florida. Or, you know what I mean? But when I took an hour nap, I was good. I was good to get home, When I saw this thing running across, it just happened. I just lifted up my head and looked, and my headlights and all my marker lights were all on the truck. And I saw this thing running across. And that just blew my mind. And then on the way home, like I said, I'm about 60 miles away from my hometown. I'm arguing with my wife. And I was like, you gotta, be a little quicker, you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? And I'm telling her what I've seen, and she's saying it's a bear. I said, nah, this ain't no damn bear. I know what a bear looks like, So, it's just like everything's always a bear. And this wasn't a bear. You know what I mean? And I'm saying to myself, and you mean I'm arguing with my wife, and so yeah, that's how that went.
Swampdogg, when you had a visual, did you notice anything weird about the eyes at all? Anything that stood out?
That's the one thing. I didn't see no eye.
Okay.
I saw the thing. I saw the body, and the eyes were black. Because when my headlights hit it, when it jumped into the ditch, it turned towards me as it was jumping into the ditch. So his right leg would have landed first into the ditch. When my headlights hit it and he turned, all I saw was black eyes. I didn't see yellow. I didn't see green. I didn't see red. It was just black eyes.
Okay.
And this thing was tall. So I know I wasn't some idiot in a monkey suit, because I never seen somebody 8-9 feet tall. You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, this thing was tall, and it wasn't like a bodybuilder. That's another thing too. It was like like real skinny. Everybody always talk about the real skinny ones that kind of look like a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
But this was more skinnier than a basketball player. But it was tall. So, but I didn't see no eye shine, because when my headlights hit it, I didn't see no eye shine or nothing. All I saw was with black eyes. The face was covered in hair, like from head to toe. This thing was covered in hair, and it was tall, and it was lanky. That's the word I want to use, lanky. You know what I mean? It wasn't as big as a basketball player, but it was tall as a basketball player.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, man, this thing must have missed a couple meals, because this thing wasn't like, everybody talks about the 3-4 foot with shoulders and, you know what I mean? Big barrel chest and all that stuff. This wasn't like that. This wasn't like that. This one I seen was tall and lanky, but he was fast. This thing was fast. If he was chasing you, you wouldn't have a chance. I'm thinking, if the way this thing moved, he was so fast that if you were out in the middle of the woods and you had your rifle in your hand, I think he would have got to you before you even raised your rifle. That's how fast this thing was. It just blew my mind. I never seen nothing that fast. I seen like cheetahs and tigers and stuff on TV. This thing was moving fast, and that just blew my mind. I wasn't scared. I was more excited than scared of what I saw.
Absolutely.
Because I couldn't believe how fast this thing was moving.
What?
You know what I mean? It's just, it just blew my mind. It just blew my mind.
What kind of, have you ever thought to yourself, what kind of creature are we dealing with here? Like, how is it you explain it? Do you explain it more as like a big ape, or maybe a forgotten human relative? Or
I hear a lot of people say ape. I hear a lot of people say human. I hear a lot of people say these things come from space. And I don't believe that one bit. What I seen that day at 35 yards from my truck with my lights hitting it, this thing was human. More human. I'll put it to you this way. If they ever get one of these things and put it on a slab, they're going to come up with, this is the third type of tribe in America. This thing was human. The face, when this thing turned at me, and I saw the face, because I'm telling you, my headlights is hitting this thing. This is human, with hair all over it. My belief, these creatures are human. I know people always say ape or half ape, half human. This thing's, in my eyes, my opinion, what I seen, this thing's human. Or more human with something else. I don't know. But I'll put it to you this way. If I seen one and I'm in my tree stand, I couldn't shoot it. There's no way possible I could shoot it. The only way that I would shoot something like this is if it was attacking me, my pets, or my wife, and then he's going to meet Jesus. But if I'm in a tree stand and it's walking by, I can't shoot it. Because in my mind, that's a human. Some kind of human.
Wow.
And I've seen it up close and personal in my truck. Now, the last encounter that I'm going to tell you, I was on my motorcycle. And this is 2 years ago. I had a big Yamaha, big bikes with the fairings. And I like to ride at nighttime. This is about 1 o'clock in the morning. They have built a brand new truck stop, and this is on Garden Road. If you look it up on Google, you'll see Garden Road, and it crosses Route 55. If you're looking on Google, you'll see that old abandoned airport and all the warehouses back in the industrial park. And you'll see the warehouse where, like, I had that howling scream that was coming at me. That's all in the same area, just maybe half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile away from each other. Well, I was on my bike, and I like going through the woods. Well, not the woods, but, I was on blacktop, and I'm riding. I'm passing the trucks up on my right-hand side. It's like I said, this truck's not even old. And I'm on my bike, and they were still building most of the parking lot, because half of the parking lot was done, like for truck parking, and they were working on the other side. So I'm riding, and I never told this one to my wife, but I'm riding my bike, and I'm doing about, I don't know, 35, 40 mile an hour. Because it's back roads, I'm looking for deer jumping out in front of me. So, I wasn't going too fast. I'm riding. I got the high beams on my bike. And what I seen, what I thought it was, I thought that when they were clearing the land, they got these, tree trunks. And what I was thinking, it must have fell off of a dump truck and landed on the side of the road. So half of it was on the road and half of it was on the shoulder. So I slow down. I get about 20 yards from this thing, and it wasn't a tree trunk. I stopped the bike. I'm like, what the F is this, right? This thing stood up, had a deer under his arms. It kind of turned. I'm thinking, like, from the waist on up, it kind of turned at me, looked at me, and ran across the street into the woods. But when this thing stood up, my legs turned to jello. And I'm riding a motorcycle that's like 900 pounds. And I'm thinking to myself, what the F? And I froze. My legs were jello. My arms felt like jello. And I swore I was going to drop my bike right there. But this thing, like I said, it turned, looked at me, had a doe under its right arm, looked at me. He did a little growl, and he ran into the woods. and I didn't see it no more. And I stood there. I couldn't turn. I was so scared. I couldn't turn my bike around to make a U-turn. I couldn't go forward because I didn't know it was there. You know what I'm trying to say? I just stood there for about 10 minutes and I didn't know what to do. And I said to myself, I'm here. I'm not moving. My bike is running. My lights are on. If this thing comes out of the woods, I'm not going to be able to control my bike. I'm going to die right here. This is it. This is done. I was 20 yards away from this thing when I came to a complete stop. And when it turned, I didn't see no monkey face. I didn't see no gorilla face. I saw a human face, kind of like an Indian face. That's what I seen. And I seen this 20 yards away. And I wear glasses when I ride my motorcycle. And I got these type of glasses. They're like goggles, but they have my prescription for my eyesight on these goggles. And I saw this thing up and personal. That was the closest encounter and my last encounter. That was my last encounter. That's why I say these things are human. Because when this thing turned around, it showed teeth. I didn't see no fangs. I didn't see no monkey face. I didn't see no gorilla face. I saw eyes, nose, and a mouth like a human being, but much, but doing bigger. And I came back home. Well, no. After I got my stuff together, I kind of walked my bike into a U-turn because I'm telling you, my legs are still jello. And I went to that convenience store, Wawa, the one that I was telling you earlier. I got a coffee. I sat on the give me like at the parking lot, you know what I mean? And I'm drinking my coffee. I was shaking, that my cup was shaking. And I had to hold my coffee with two hands in order for me to drink it. My cigarette, I lit up the cigarette, and I couldn't hardly light my cigarette up. I had to do that with two hands too. So, and you know what I mean? I'm sitting there by my bike and I'm talking to God. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? This happened since I was a teenager until now. Why are you doing this to me? And you know, that's what I kept telling myself. I'm actually talking to God. Why are you doing this to me? This is your fault. Why are you doing this? Why are you tormenting me? You know what I mean? Because you're going through a million things are going through your mind. You go 20 yards away from one of these things, it's going to change your life. If you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to believe in Jesus that day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, that was my last encounter. And it's like, 2 years later, when I came home, a couple hours later, my wife's like, where you been? I said, I want to talk about it. And I never told my wife. I parked my bike in the driveway. The next morning, I told my wife to put it up on the internet. I'm not riding my bike anymore. I sold my motorcycle. And that was 2 years ago. I sold my motorcycle. I sold it. And I've never been on a motorcycle ever again. Because when I was away from this thing at 20 yards, I had no protection. Nothing could protect. I didn't have no roof. I didn't have no door. I didn't have anything. Just me and the bike. That scared the hell out of me. It just scared me so bad that I sold my bike. A week later, my bike was gone. And I never rode a motorcycle ever again. Never. That messed me up with riding a motorcycle. And I love riding a motorcycle. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it no more. That's just, you know how everybody says, oh, you shouldn't ride a motorcycle because you get in a car accident. You got nothing to protect you. Well, I never thought about that. But when I saw this thing, I'm saying to myself, this thing could have snagged me off this bike and I had nothing to protect me. Nothing. No doors, no roof, no windshield, no nothing. I sold my bike, and I never rode a bike ever again. And it's been 2 years since I rode a motorcycle. That's how bad this thing messed me up. So
that is wild. That
yes,
you actually sold your motorcycle. It affected you so much.
I sold my motorcycle. I sold my motorcycle, and I don't want a motorcycle ever again. I don't want to ride a motorcycle. This thing just messed me up. It's like I was telling you, everybody always talking about, oh, you shouldn't ride a motorcycle because of a car accident. You got no protection. You fall, you drive. No, I wasn't even thinking about that anymore. I'm thinking about, no, I don't want to ride a motorcycle ever again because I got no protection over these things. This thing can ride up against you, and you're going into back country roads. This thing will snag you off. This is what I had in my mind. This thing can snag you off your bike, and you're done because there's no protection. This is how my mentality was at that time. So I never rode a motorcycle ever again. Never. My wife always asking, when are we going to get a bike? Never. I don't want nothing to do with motorcycles. I don't want nothing to do with anything. Like, as far as the motorcycle, because I said, there's no protection for these things. You stop at a stop sign and you're in the middle of the road. You know what I mean? This is where my mentality was. You know what I mean? You know how sometimes you hear a hunter goes, I don't hunt no more. I sold my guns. Well, this is how it was for me with a motorcycle. I sold my bike. I sold everything, and I want no parts of it. And I don't know why, because I was on blacktop. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I had woods on both sides of me, but I was on blacktop, back roads, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, but, this messed me up, you know what I mean? I didn't want no parts of it. I sold my bike, and I never wanted to buy another one ever again,
Swampdogg, I feel like there's got to be some Bigfoot researchers that check out Vineland, New Jersey. I mean, you've got some wild stuff, man.
I'm going to tell you, like, I tried calling, like years ago, I tried calling a BRFO in New Jersey.
Sure.
And there was like nobody on the other line. I don't even know if they exist. You know what I mean? But I know that other people, old timers, old farmers, hunters, I know that they know that they're there. Because I'm telling you, I know that I'm not the only one that ever seen these things. And these guys telling me, oh, be careful when you go out in the woods, you go camping, this and that, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Make sure you got protection and, just keep an eye on your surroundings and stuff like that, They have to know something, they just ain't telling you, you know what I mean? And sometimes that kind of aggravates me because if you know there's something out there, you should tell somebody you know what I mean? So that way, like they're prepared and they won't get hurt or they go missing. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. Knowledge is everything.
Absolutely.
And every night, it's like I was telling you, I listen to your podcast. I listen to Sasquatch Chronicles. I listen to Dr. Meldrum. I listen to a whole lot of people. And and I'm learning. And when I hear stories, I stop and think about it. And I think about my encounters, and then I think about their encounters, and I'm always thinking. These things are all over. You know what I mean? They even say they're down South America,
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
But, and then I think about all the stories I hear about the government. No, well, I wasn't finished with the last encounter. the lady, and I mean, I'm not gonna mention the company,
Okay.
but I known her for many, many years, and I felt comfortable talking to her. And a couple of days after this thing was with the motorcycle, me and her were outside smoking, and I said, "Bob, I gotta talk to you." Oops. But anyway, I gotta talk to you. And then she said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I told her what had happened to me, and the reason why I told her was because her son's a game warden in New Jersey, in our area down here. And I says, can you just, this is what happened to me. I wasn't drinking. I don't do drugs. But this is what happened to me. Can you relay this story to your son, since he was a game warden, or is a game warden? And ask him if he wants to look into it, or if he wants to call me and talk to me. And a couple of days went by, and I had asked her again. I says, did you talk to your son? And he says, yeah. He says, you're crazy. You were seeing things. He said he never seen nothing like that, blah, blah, blah. And I left it alone. I never said nothing more. I left it alone. And that's when I stopped talking about it. I was going to tell my wife about it, but I didn't want to. After that, after what she told me, what her son said, I didn't want to talk about it, And but that was up and close. I was about 20 yards away, and I'm thinking this is a tree trunk. How when they dig it out of the ground, and then you mean they put it on the back of a dump truck or something. I'm thinking like this thing fell off a truck and landed on the road. So you mean it? I stopped. I was going to go around it, but before I was going to go around it, the thing stood up. And this was a big boy. And I just don't, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting in my truck right now. I'm about 10 minutes away from all this that I'm telling you. You know what I mean? Except the one on 295, about 60 miles away. But everything else that I'm telling you, I'm only 10 minutes away from. If I start my truck up right now, I could be in those areas in 10 minutes. So, I don't know.
That's just absolutely wild.
If I seen it, I'm pretty sure everybody else seen it. I mean, my father-in-law told me he's seen it. You know what I mean? When he was 14 years old. So, that, like you said, that was what, like the 30s, 35s? 1935, 1930? Somewhere around there. Like he was like 67 when he was telling me. So I don't know. I just, and it used to upset me too. I don't know why it did, but it used to. You know what I mean? Because every time I hear like a podcast, and they're always talking about other states. Nobody ever talked about Jersey, and I'm saying to myself, isn't there anybody in New Jersey ever seen one of these things? And it used to piss me off. You know what I mean? Because I know what I see. I know what I'm going through. I think I smoke more cigarettes now than I did before because of the shit that happened. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like, you know what I mean? And I think about it too much because I dream about it. Sometimes I get these dreams. I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm in sweat. If my wife to tell you, my pillows would be soaking wet.
Mm-hmm.
And, she used to have to change the bed sheets and the pillows and all that stuff because my side of the bed would be soaking wet, especially when I had these dreams, of these things. So I don't know if I have what they call it, PSTD or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, like if I have that because I never talked to anybody about it, not even a shrink or my doctor. But I don't know. I get these bad dreams about stuff like that.
A lot of people do get PTSD from encounters. That is definitely a real thing. Swampdogg for sure.
Yeah. So but I still go in the woods. I still bow hunt. And you know what? This is another thing too. I'm not the guy that goes to a dealership and buy a new Jeep or buy a new truck. I'm the guy that buys the 23-year-old truck, and I like to build my truck, and I like to build it so it would last in the middle of the woods and all that stuff. I make my own bumpers. I don't order bumpers. The only thing I order on my truck is my suspension lift, my tires, and wheels. When I make a bumper and when I build a bumper, I build this bumper, and what I'm thinking when I'm building this bumper, I want to build this bumper that's strong enough that if I'm ever going through a trail and I run into one of these things, I want that bumper and my front end of my truck to last. I want no damages. So, like a lot of times, my friends feel like, "Yo, man, you built a bumper kind of overkill, don't you think?" I said, "Well, there's reasons." You know what I mean? And but everything I do when it's building the bumper, front or back, it's for this creature. It's weird. If I'm building something on my truck, I'm building it. I try to do it like Bigfoot proof. You know what I mean?
It makes sense.
What I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it's crazy that I shouldn't be thinking like this, but I do think like this is how I think. Like, what I mean? Like, and it's weird, but this is how I think. I build my truck for Bigfoot proof. You know what I mean? If I'm going to build the roll cage, you know what I mean? I'm building it for Bigfoot proof. You know what I mean? And it's weird, and you know what I mean? It's kind of messed up, I think. You know what I mean? Because I do everything overkill, like my front bumper, my back bumper, my rock sliders on the side of my truck on the bottom. Everything is Bigfoot proof, and I go overkill on steel, pipe, whatever. My weldings, my welds, everything. And now I'm moving to Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee. I have bought property out there. I don't want to mention where you mean I bought property, but it's up in the mountains, Eastern Tennessee. And like I told my wife the other day, I'm going to be honest with you. This is what I told her. 50% of the reason why I bought this property up in the mountains is because of Bigfoot. And the other 50% why I bought this piece of property on the side of the mountain is for us. And she looked at me, she goes, "You're serious?" I said, "Yes, I'm serious." You know what I mean? And man, she's starting to come around and she's starting to think, you know what, this guy's telling the truth. You know what I mean? Now, I never told her why I sold my bike.
Wow.
Because I was kind of afraid to tell her why. But I never told her, which I know she's going to know now if you put this on your podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
yeah.
Then she's going to know why. You know what I mean? But I never told her. I never told anybody. You're the first one and only one that I told why I sold my bike.
So
and that was 2 years ago.
The Eastern Tennessee property, have you done research then to see if there are reportings on that property, or you just had a good idea that you were in the right area?
Well, listening to other encounters, Eastern Tennessee, around the Kentucky area, and all that, I kind of got an idea. And then I started looking into it, and they had where I bought my property, they had 4 encounters in that town. I'm not saying on my property, but in that town, they have 4 encounters because I Googled it. I don't want to say the name of the town, you know what I mean? And, but that, when I bought property in Tennessee, 50% of that reason why I bought that property was because Bigfoot. Now, I want to get down and dirty. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't want to say that I want to be a researcher or anything like that, but I don't know, just I want to get down and dirty with this creature. I'm not saying killing it or anything, you know, but I'm just saying I want to, how can I put it? I want to be like, you know, close, or I want to be around of all this. You
feels
know what
like
I mean?
feels like you want the truth. You're trying to figure out the truth.
Well, I know the truth. I've seen the truth.
Sure.
But I don't know. I just can't explain it. You know what I mean? The reason why, I mean, about this property, like I said, you know what I mean? 50% of the reasoning is because of this creature. I want to know more about this creature. I want to know everything about this creature. I want to know everything. When I was on my bike and this thing turned around and looked at me, that thing looked human. I don't care what anybody in this country says. Oh, they look like gorillas. They look like apes. They look this. That thing looked human. And I know it's part human, or I don't know, 3/4 human and 1/4 something else. But this thing was human. This thing looked at me. It kind of, it growled. The way he opened his mouth and he looked at me was like, what the F are you looking at? That's what his eyes was telling me. What the F are you looking at? And he took off with the deer under his arm. And that right there, you know, as like I told you, I went to that convenience store. I got my coffee, lit up the cigarette. I'm talking to God. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you tormenting me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's some moments where you talk to God. That was one of my moments, you know, asking him why he's doing this to me. You know, that's how it was, you know.
I get you, Swampdogg. It feels like your story is just beginning, really. Once you move down to Tennessee, I think things are going to get pretty wild for you, dude.
Yeah, you know, the realtor that I talked to, that I dealt with when I bought my property, you know, her husband hunts a lot and stuff, and I was asking her what kind of wild animals we have out there, and you know that stuff, and she was telling me, and you know, and I'm like, oh, that's good. That's what I like to hunt, this and that, blah blah blah, and I kind of made a joke with her. And I said, I hope there ain't no Bigfoot on the property. You know what I mean? Just joking around with her. And she's like, you'll never know. I was like, okay.
You never know.
You'll never know, she said.
That's someone who knows something.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she knows something.
Yeah. Yep. So, you know, that's just, it's like, I don't know. That's the way it is.
That's funny.
But, yeah, that last time it was me talking to God moment, asking him why. And you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. But from what I've seen, how these things act, what I've seen, I believe these things are more human than anything else. Now, I hear these guys talk about that they came out of a spaceship and all. I don't believe that. This is a flesh and blood, I say person, because that's what I've seen. Just hair all over it. You know what I mean? That's what I've seen. And I mean, I will stick with that. Until I see someone looks like a monkey or an ape, this thing look human. And I mean, I always tell my wife, I said, these things are human. I can't shoot one if I'm up in a tree stand or if I'm in a ground blind. I couldn't shoot one. The only way that I would shoot one is if it was harming my family or my animals. And like I said, he'll meet Jesus. That's guaranteed. But I couldn't shoot one just to shoot one. You know what I mean? I just couldn't do it. There's no way.
I hear you. I hear you, Swampdogg. Man, It has been an incredible conversation with you. I'm so glad that you contacted me because this has been incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I was telling you earlier, you know what I mean? I listen to your shows all the time, every night. You know what I mean? Like, 2 or 3 shows a night that I listen to. And it's like I was telling you, a lot of these guys that have these podcast shows, it's like they know everything. And like, I don't know. It's just, I'm not going to try to say they're cocky or something, but they act like they know it all and they know everything. And, you know what I mean? All these guys are doing wood knocks and all this other stuff. That stuff don't work. If you're going out there looking for one, you'll never find one. Every encounter that I had, every time I heard one, I never was looking for one. And all these guys going in the woods, they're howling and whooping and doing tree knocks. They're never going to find one. These things are intelligent. For this thing to stand up with a deer under his arm, turn around at me, and he was looking like, what the F are you looking at? And he ran. This thing's smart. Like, you know what I mean? They're not like a bear, you know what I mean? Because a bear would have just stayed there, or, you know what I mean? Coyote would have just stayed there, you know what I mean? This thing took off, and it knew I was scared. I had a feeling that this last time, it knew that I was scared. And he knew I wasn't going to do nothing. It was like he was head honcho, and he knew he was the shit. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it just aggravates me when people are like, oh, like Jimmy, like the other day, I heard somebody saying that they saw these orbs going through the woods, and inside the orb they saw a Bigfoot face. Are you kidding me? I don't think so. That's the kind of stuff that kind of upsets me. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if they're joking about this issue or what. I don't know. But you know what I mean? When I can't say that it didn't happen because I wasn't there, but I saw these things up and close. Like I said, the last 2 times I've seen it up and close. This is not for no spaceship. I don't care what anybody says. This is more human than anything. And the eyes. It's like I said, I never seen no eye shine. When I was on my bike, I didn't see no eye shine. I saw black eyes. And when I was in my truck and I looked up and I seen this one running across the parking lot, I didn't see no eye shine. It had black eyes. And the hands were like my hands, but 3 or 4 times bigger than my hands. Everybody's talking about like a catcher's mitt. I think it was bigger than a catcher's mitt.
Oh, wow.
This thing was huge. And I was saying to myself, if this thing ever grabs somebody, that's it. They're done. You know what I mean? But wow. I don't know. I don't know if I was cursed with this. You know what I mean? I don't know. But 89 was the first year I seen one. And the last time I seen it was like 2 years ago.
I don't think it's the last time either. If you're headed to East Tennessee, man.
Yeah, I know. That's what you mean. I keep thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and like right now, like it's kind of funny because I mostly, uh, I mostly bow hunt. But then now I'm looking at, since I'm moving to that area, I'm looking at big guns. You know what I mean? 50 caliber. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I'm thinking this is what I need if I'm on my property and I come across one of these things and it's trying to harm us. I need a 50 caliber. I don't know if a 47 is going to do it. I don't know. You know what I mean? I've seen them like on videos. I've seen them knock down brown bears and grizzly bears. You know what I mean? But I gotta get me a 50 caliber. I even looked up how much a box of bullets were. They're $795 for a box of bullets for a 50 caliber. You know what I mean?
It sounds like an investment for sure, but you're going to be prepared.
This is how I'm thinking. This is how I'm telling you. I'm thinking this way. Everything I do, I think about this creature. Like from my truck all the way to my property. What kind of handguns do I need? What kind of rifle will put this thing down if it comes at me? If I'm on my property and I'm in a tree stand and this thing's coming at me, what do I need to put this thing down before it gets to me? You know what I mean? These are the things that go through my head. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to prepare myself, And my wife, she's starting she knows this is no joke. You know what I mean? And it's like I don't know. This is a part of my life, I guess.
Her eyes are starting to get opened for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Swampdogg, thank you. Thank you so much for contacting me again. Like, this has been awesome. Please keep in touch with. I mean, you're gonna have further interactions. I just know it being in that area.
Yeah.
But man,
I just want to thank you for what you do. I want to thank you for everything that you do, and everything you do, and all the learning that we all doing out here. And it's like I said, I like to listen to you because, to me, you're just one of the good old boys. It's not, you know what I mean? These other podcasts are like, I don't know. It seems to me they're looking for stardom. You're just looking for the truth.
I'm just trying to figure it out along with you. You know what I mean? I appreciate that.
I feel that. Yep. So, all right, brother. I will talk to you later. And any questions, just, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like I said, but.
Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.